This is the ultimate fat loss guide. I'm going to show you what to eat. I'm going to give you the foods that will literally melt the fat off your body, what I call the perfect meal. I'm going to give you the kind of exercises that are going to ignite that fat burning machinery in your muscle so you can develop a lean, toned, and sculpted body. And I'm going to give you the habit system that will literally change you from the inside out forever. So you're not going to lose weight and gain it back and then lose it and gain it and all that kind of nonsense. Whether you want to lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 30, 50 pounds, the weight will stay off for good. And this isn't based on theory. I'm a professional trainer. I've been doing this since 2005. I've literally seen hundreds of client transformations. I've had 17,000 one-on-one sessions. So this isn't theory. Like, I've seen this happen again and again and again in my program. And it's definitely, when you apply it, will work for you too. But it all starts with what I call the ultimate fat loss formula. Here's what you have to understand. This is my 5th flippin' take. And my wife said, hey, just do it. Don't be perfect. Okay, so this is it. I'm just gonna share with you. I'm gonna be straight. Okay, fat loss is not magic. Okay, fat loss is science. Here's a question for you. How many calories are in 1 pound of fat? Now you may know this or you may not know this. I didn't know this before I learned it, but 1 pound of fat has 3,500 calories. So here's a question. How many calories do you have to burn in order to burn 1 pound of fat? This is not a trick question, okay? It's like, when was the War of 1812? You have to burn 3,500 calories. You have to be in a caloric deficit or burn 3,500 calories to burn 1 pound of fat. As a matter of fact, in training school, when you first learn how to be a personal trainer, this is the very first thing that you learn. On day number 1 is the first law of thermodynamics, which means that energy can't be created or destroyed, which means that if you're burning 3,500 calories, it doesn't come from thin air. It has to come from something, either your food or your fat. So now the question is, this is where it gets really interesting. How many pounds of fat do you want to lose? Clarity is power. Once you know that number, then it's like then you can reverse engineer. What the experts say is that if your goal is fat loss, that you should lose anywhere between 4 to 8 pounds of fat per month. Now, this is what I would recommend too. Now, I've had clients who've lost 12 pounds of fat in a month. This last year when we did our fat loss challenge, I had three people like right off the bat lost 12 pounds and then another 12. So it's like 24 pounds of fat in 2 months. Now, I wouldn't recommend that. And you might be thinking, well, why not? Because there's this thing called the rubber band effect. It's the rubber band where you're pulling this thing, you're eating well, you're exercising, it creates tension, and you can hold on to it for a little bit, but pretty soon, unless you're just like, you got to let go. And that's exactly what happens. So people lose all this fat, but then they gain it back. And here's a number that I want you to understand, is that 95% of all people who go on diets, they fail. And this is according to research. Or if they lose the weight, they gain it back, which means there's only a 5% success rate. And one of the reasons why is people often lose too much too soon. So 4 to 8 pounds per month. Now so you might be thinking, well, I want to lose more. A little bit later in this little equation, I'm going to tell you the secret to losing more. If that's what you really want to do. If you're not losing at least 4, I would say, there's something wrong with your formula here. You need to fix it. If you're losing more to 8, I would probably say slow it down. So this is the sweet spot. Now that you can choose which one works best for you, how many pounds of fat do you lose per week? So this equals out to, I'm not really good at math, but I can do this equation, 1 to 2 pounds per week. Now here's where it gets interesting. It's so good. How many calories do you have to burn per week if you want to burn, let's just say 2. Okay, let's just say 2. 2 times 3,500, that's 7,000 calories per week. Now, how many calories is that per day? 7,000 divided by 7. This is actually really cool. Kind of works out. Is 1,000 calories per day. You have to be in a caloric deficit or burn 1,000 calories per day if you want to burn 2 pounds per week. Isn't that awesome? So now what I'm going to do is we're going to use an XY chart like back in the day when you were in grade school. Okay, 1,000 calories per day deficit. Now that we have clarity, we can say, all right, well, what are all the ways that we can, what are all the things that we can do to burn 1,000 calories a day? Now, don't memorize any of this stuff. I just want you to get the concept, all right? Well, let's go ahead and start with the biggest thing, which is food, okay? This is what I tell my peeps, my clients. I say, hey, food is 80% of your success when it comes to changing your body all the time. Now, I'm going to give you the perfect meal, the perfect strategy, all that kind of stuff, but just get for now, this is what the experts say, reduce your calories per day by 500 calories. And you want to eat the kind of foods that will give you energy, that will feed your muscle and make sure that your metabolism doesn't drop. And I'll give that to you, but just understand the concept. Now, a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just do 1,000 calories a day? Wouldn't that work? I saw Susie Q the other day. She like didn't eat. She fasted and she lost all the weight. Well, I guarantee you, like if she's part of the 95%, she gained it all back. But here's the second thing. She didn't lose fat. She probably lost muscle and water weight. Okay. And so 500 calories is like the sweet spot where you're not getting too hungry, but you're diving into your fat stores. And so that's what I'd recommend for that. Again, I'm going to teach you all the specifics later on, but this is what we're going to start with. Okay, now what else can you do to reduce your body fat? Well, how about you exercise? Okay, so the first thing is food. The second thing is, let's just say cardio. Cardio is the quickest way to burn the most amount of calories. Okay? It's the quickest way to burn the most amount of calories, but it doesn't necessarily increase your metabolism. As a matter of fact, if you were to do cardio, let's just say 3 times per week. This is what I would recommend for anybody starting, or is to do 3 times per week. And I'll tell you what to do in addition to cardio in just a second. So 3 times per week times 400 calories if you absolutely killed it in a cardio session. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, my Fitbit tells me I burned 700 calories. And here's what I say, your Fitbit is a flippin' liar. Isn't that crazy? According to research, and they've tested this over and over again, if you absolutely kill it and you do a full hour, 45 minutes to a full hour of cardio, you're only burning 400 calories in that session. And the thing is that these watches want you to use the watches, and so they fib a little bit. They exaggerate how many calories you're burning. So how many calories is that? That's 1,200 calories per week. So how many calories is that per day if we were to divide it by 7? It turns out it's about 171 calories per day. Oh my gosh, not that much. Okay? But the cool thing is that there's this thing called afterburn where the cardio actually helps you burn calories after the session. It's what we call afterburn. It's awesome. But still, check this out. You're still not in a caloric deficit of 1,000 calories. So what else can you do? Here's the cool part. Is you could do weight training. Okay? Number 3, resistance training or weight training. Now you might be thinking, a lot of females say, "Oh my gosh, well I don't want to, gain bulkiness to my muscles." Believe me, you're not going to get bulky from your muscles. We would have to jack you up with a bunch of protein and some hormones and a lot of heavy resistance training to bulk you up. What resistance training does, weight training does, is helps you tones, sculpts, firms, and shapes your muscle. Cardio cannot do that. But cardio melts the fat off your body because it burns a lot of calories. And so the combination of weight training and cardio is perfect. Here's what I'd recommend. Doing 3 times per week. And if you absolutely killed it in a resistance training session or weight training session, it's only burning 300 calories. Remember, don't memorize any of this. And so that's a total of 900 calories per week. And it only works out to be about 128 calories per day if you divide it by 7. Like, holy cow. That's not enough, but here's the best part, is that weight training increases your metabolism. Cardio doesn't do that. So we can add even a little bit more of a little line here because you're going to be burning more calories per day even on the days you're not working out. That's why weight training is so incredibly important as a strategy for fat loss. Whereas if you're just doing cardio every single day, let's just say 5-6 days a week with no weight training, your metabolism isn't necessarily going to raise. So this is a really balanced approach. If you do this, you will lose 2 pounds of fat per week. Now, for those of you who are like, I want to burn 12 pounds per month. Okay, here's how you do it, all right? We got to add another little arrow. So for those of you who do like 10 to 15 to 20,000 steps a day, you add a little baby arrow. But the secret is, how many little baby arrows can we add? Okay. Take the stairs instead of the elevator at work. Okay, great. Another little baby arrow. Drink green tea because it has EGCG in there, which helps you burn fat, right? That adds another little baby arrow. Go hiking on the weekend with your boyfriend or girlfriend or your dogs or whatever. You add another little baby arrow, and so on and so on and so on. That's how you do it in a balanced way. Now, if you just try to reduce it with your food, your body will know and it will reject you. It will fight you. If you just try to do it with weight training, you're going to be bulky and you won't have that extra fat melted off. If you try to do it with just cardio, you're going to be like doing the cardio machine all day. Your metabolism maybe even drop. And so, but when you combine all of these methods, it's kind of like Captain Planet. Okay. Back in the day, we had this cartoon called Captain Planet. When all of the powers combined, all the members of this little team, they combined their powers and it created like this Captain Planet. And he went in there and he saved the day. This is like Captain Planet. Now that you know the overall approach, let's dive in and find out specifically how to maximize each of these so you can melt the fat, you can burn, tone, and sculpt, and you can keep it off for life. But before I do that, I want to say that something really quick, and it is so incredibly important, okay? Now, once you start reducing your body fat with this, because it works, it's like a treasure map. Once you have the treasure map, you will find that treasure every single time if you have the right map. And so what will happen is that you're going to start reducing your body fat, but then something might happen. You might start to experience what we call imposter syndrome. Now, imposter syndrome is so incredibly real. I've seen it take people out time and time again in my program. So this is what I'm going to say to you, okay? Now, this is kind of weird. Look into my eyes. Look into my eyes right now. I'm going to say to you, you might start to experience voices that say you're not good enough. Who are you? You don't belong here. Eat that, do this. Just let me tell you, you are unstoppable. You are incredible. You are powerful. Remind yourself of all the things that you need to do to stay in this program. Remind yourself of the energy that you want to have. Remind yourself of the way that you're going to fit into those clothes. Remind yourself that every single relationship of yours in your life will get better. Every single part of your life will get better once you start to have that vitality. Once you start to build that strength. You are worth it. Okay? So stay in the program. I was actually in this program last year. I had a trainer, a coach, and it was so hard. And I started thinking, God, am I good enough to be in this program? It happens to the best of us when you're growing, when you're stretching, when you're reaching for something amazing in your life. So stay the course and don't give up. So now I'm going to give you what we call the fat loss blueprint or the perfect meal. Now, let me say there's no such thing as the perfect meal for fat loss. The reason why I call it the perfect meal is because I started giving it to my clients. They started losing a bunch of weight. So I'm like, oh my God, this is like the perfect meal. So that's why I call it the perfect meal. You can call it whatever you want to. Now, this perfect meal is going to help you have energy throughout the day. It's going to feed your muscles. It's going to keep you satisfied. And it all starts with what I like to say is a medium to small plate. That is a perfect circle. That is an amazing, perfect circle. It's like one of the best circles I've ever done. Now we're going to divide this plate into 3. And the first ingredient on this plate, and we're going to get to them all, that is so incredibly important, and it's one nutrient that clinically obese people are missing in groves, is fiber. Or veggies. Now, veggies have micronutrients. They have vitamins and minerals, really, really good. But the one thing that will help you with fat loss is fiber. This is your stomach. It's a really bad picture of your stomach, but you get the picture. Now, when you eat food like a meal with a bunch of fiber, a bunch of veggies, it fills up your stomach. And it stretches the stomach walls, and this triggers the suppression of the hunger hormone called ghrelin. Ghrelin the Gremlin, like the 80s movies. It goes to your brain and it tells your brain that you're satisfied, that you don't want any more food. So it stops the hunger response and you feel satisfied. Now here is the catch, right? This is when you have whole food. Now, what most people do is that most Americans anyway, they eat ultra-processed foods. Okay, now ultra-processed foods have little to no fiber at all. We're talking about sodas, we're talking about flour, we're talking about sugar, we're talking about anything that's processed and doesn't look like an orange or a piece of whole food, okay? And so when you eat, let's just say this is 500 calories, all right, fills you up. when you eat something that has 500 calories with processed foods, check this out. It doesn't fill up your stomach. Okay? And so your stomach's like, well, hey, I'm still hungry. So you eat more. Let's just say this is even 500 calories more. And then your stomach's like, well, I'm still not hungry. And so you keep eating until you're actually full. And this entire meal could be 1,500 calories just because it has no fiber. Now, I'm going to show you a picture. Check this out. Now, this picture, see this picture here? It is a picture of a plate of food that's 500 calories. Boy, it is chock full of nutrients, and you might be thinking, well, I don't need anything like that. It looks like crap. I could put some blue cheese on it or something, right? I used to think that too, but now this is like the majority of the food that I eat. I love it, and I'm full. This is 500 calories. Now check this out on the right. Let's just say this is Honey Nut Cheerios, okay? This is like just a regular sized bowl. Actually, when I used to eat this is my favorite. I used to let it get soggy. It's just what I loved. I'd let it sit there for like 20 minutes while I was getting ready for school. And then I would eat it. It was soggy. I loved it. I could eat 4 bowls of this bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios easy, like crack cocaine. There's no flipping way in hell I'd be able to eat the whole food plate. I would not be able to eat 4 of those. I would throw up, okay? That's the difference. And this is one of the reasons why 41% of our population is clinically obese, is because they are feeding us poison. They are feeding you poison. And nobody's talking about this. So when you increase on your plate of food, veggies, it literally works like magic. And how much veggies do you actually add to your plate? 2 palm-sized amounts of veggies. It could be your favorite veg. It could be broccoli. It could be zucchini. It could be, carrots. It could be, anything. And a lot of people are like, well, don't carrots have sugar? Won't that gain you weight? Tell me one person who's gotten obese off of eating carrots. Don't worry. Put carrots on your flippin' plate as long as it has a good fiber. So what's the next ingredient that we add in this perfect meal? The second ingredient is protein. Now, protein is so popular. You ask people, well, what are you supposed to have in your diet? And people are like, protein. And if you say protein, you're absolutely right. But why? Protein helps you repair and build your muscles. So when you go to work out, you're actually damaging your muscle tissue. And so what protein does is it helps you repair and build the muscle. It's the building blocks of your muscle. And also, protein is there to keep you satisfied. Studies actually show that the more protein that you eat, the less calories that you consume in the day. They actually did this study of a group of obese women, and they increased their protein intake by about 25-30%, didn't do anything else. And by the end of the day, each woman on average ate 441 calories less per day. By not changing anything else, they didn't try to, they just weren't hungry. And so protein actually does keep you satisfied. So we're going to add 1 palm size of your palm, 1 palm size amount of protein. Perfect. Okay, that's great. And so what kind of protein do you add? Okay, so you can have chicken, you can have lean beef, you can have lamb, you can have eggs, like scrambled eggs or fried eggs, whatever. You can have whatever protein suits you best. I prefer a plant-based most of the time, so I'll eat like legumes, I'll eat lentils, I'll have tofu. I'll also eat salmon maybe 3 times per week. It really depends on you. Whatever lean meat, you could have squirrel meat, you can have raccoon meat, whatever your thing is. And a lot of people are like, well, how much protein should I eat per day? So let me just share with you really quick. So this is a recommendation that I would give, okay, is 0.8 times your goal body weight. So if you're 180 pounds right now and you want to be 150 pounds, then it would be 0.8 times 150. So that would be approximately 100 grams per day. Now, a lot of people are like, there's no way I'd be able to eat that much protein. Okay, great. So here's what I'd recommend. 0.7 times 150. And then recalculate it until you find something that works for you. I find that the more veggies that you increase in your diet, the more fiber that you have, the less protein that you actually want and that you actually need. So you might want to just find that balance. So far, you have 2 palm-sized amounts of fiber, veggies. You have 1 palm-sized amount of protein of your choice. And then the third one, like what is the third one? The third one is is carbohydrates, carbs. Now you might be thinking carbs are evil. Oh, what is this crap? I was loving every single thing about this presentation until this catastrophe. Now just calm down. Let me just share with you something. Carbs are your body's preferred source of energy. It can use protein, it can use fat, but it absolutely prefers carbohydrates. And there are 2 types of carbohydrates. There is sugar, like table sugar, sugar even from fruit or fruit juices, things that you would even find in candy, mostly processed foods. That's the sugar that you should avoid, except for fruit, because it has fiber, it's good for you. But the sugar you should avoid. But then there's complex carbohydrates, complex carbs. These are the ones that are absolutely awesome. They are low on the glycemic index, which means that they don't convert into sugar and they don't fill out your blood full of sugar. And so that's good. And these kind of carbs are really, 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 really good for you. They're higher in fiber and they give you a lot of nutrients. You see, back in the 90s, we had the war on fat. And so what that means, if you're living in the 90s, that means you could have yogurt. They had the country's TCBY. You could have high sugar yogurt. You could have pretzels. You can have all the carbs you want in the world as long as it wasn't fat. They had these things called snack wells. People were jacking themselves up on all this sugar, but it didn't have any fat, so that was cool. Now we know fat is actually really, really essential for your body. Now we have the war on carbs. Now I guarantee you in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to realize that carbs are actually really good for you. There is this influencer online. He's like a super, super, super ripped guy. His name is Athlean X. That's his brand. And he's super ripped and he eats tons of carbs. And I eat tons of carbs too. I eat more carbs now than I ever have in my life. And I'm the leanest that I've been in and so incredibly long because I'm eating the right type of carbohydrates. And one of the reasons why I absolutely recommend carbs in your perfect meal, in your diet, is because carbs are everywhere. And if you try to not have carbs in your diet, eventually you're going to fail because they're everywhere and they're so good. And so you have a lot of people who are like, well, I tried. You have Susie Q out there who says like, I tried Atkins or I tried the keto diet and I lost 25 pounds. Well, you didn't lose 25 pounds of fat. Okay, you lost a lot of weight in water weight. And here's why. When you eat a carbohydrate, it goes into the muscle and a carbohydrate holds on to water molecules. So when you stop eating carbs altogether and you're just eating protein, fiber, and maybe some fat, all those water molecules, all the water in your muscle gets flushed out and you instantly start to feel a little leaner, you get the fluff off, you feel good, and then you start telling everybody, wow, this diet's working. And then eventually when you eat carbs again, guess what happens? The water gets put back into your flipping muscle. And so you're like, oh man, that keto diet really worked. Now it works for a lot of people. Hey, if it works for you, great, do it, okay? But I would recommend to keep carbs in your diet because you want this to be a permanent solution, not something that you do for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So what's the size of the carbs? Okay, you have a palm-sized amount of protein and you have a palm-sized amount of carbs, complex carbohydrates. So this could be sweet potato, it could be oats, it could be rice, it could be whatever complex carb you want. The protein could be like a chicken breast or like a lean, whatever. And the veggies could be broccoli, okay? So one really cool thing that I do for me, because I pick a vegetarian source mostly, is I have tofu, sweet potatoes, broccoli, asparagus, you name it. You can mix and match, that's the coolest part. Plus, it's with the foods that you already love. So it makes it a little bit easier. What about the fourth ingredient? The fourth ingredient is fat, okay? Now, what kind of fat? Now, fat is absolutely essential because it sends a signal to your brain called CCK. And when you send CCK, it tells your brain that you're satisfied. And without fat, you may not feel satisfied and you'll want to have even more food. Even though you've already eaten, your body will be like, gosh, why am I craving? You're craving because you didn't include enough fat. And so here is the rule of thumb when you eat fat. 1 to 2 thumb-size amounts of fat, like an oil. Could be like a healthy oil like avocado oil, could be like olive oil or olives or avocado. Fats could also be nuts. It could be nut oil. There's the fats to sort of stay away from are canola oil, trans fatty oils, vegetable oils, saturated fats from animals, with the exception of fish. Okay, so now that you have what I call the perfect meal, how often do you actually eat it? And how do you make it a habit? How do you incorporate it in your life? So now I'm going to give you the fat melting habit system. The number one New York Times bestselling book, Atomic Habits, really good book, is written by a guy named James Clear. He has a quote in the book and that I absolutely love, and he says it like this: if you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. So in other words, if you don't have a meal system, if you don't have a system that will allow you to incorporate this in your life, you won't do it. I promise. And here is a story that I just want to share with you so you really truly get this. When I first started training, I thought I was a badass. I didn't really know anything, but I thought I was a badass. I had this really expensive, computer program that would ask you about 150 questions about your food. And what would happen is that I would get all of these answers, and the computer would like spit out like this meal plan, and it was like the perfect meal plan. And I got it, and I felt like a badass, and I gave it to my clients, and I'm like, crossed my arms like, yes, I'm the best trainer in the world. And it worked for like 3 days. And then my clients would be like, oh my gosh, Peter, I don't know what happened. And I'm like, well, like what happened? They're like, I don't know. I just can't stick to it. And I was so frustrated that one day I said, okay, instead of doing all of these things and changing your whole everything, why don't you just pick one meal from this plan, and we'll just have that one meal one time per day for 7 days, okay? When you do it for 7 days or for 14 days, 2 weeks, then we'll add the second meal, but only if you've done it perfectly every single day with that one meal. And they said, okay. And then pretty soon in my program, like people's results started going through the roof. People were losing fat left and right. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the perfect setup. This is like the perfect meal. And I was like, I felt like I found the keys to the kingdom. And what I didn't understand at that time was something really, really important. Let me see, is it perfect? No, it's a little, okay, whatever. I discovered that we all have a comfort zone. As you know, you've heard this millions of times. We build our entire lives out of our comfort zone. And when you eat one little baby meal at a time, you have to get uncomfortable with preparing it. You have to get uncomfortable with actually eating it, maybe not like a combination that you like. You have to get uncomfortable with planning, and this creates tension. It's just a little bit of tension, okay? But after about a week or 2 weeks, it just becomes normal. And then pretty soon now your comfort zone is a little bit bigger. You grew. And at that point, that's when we add the second meal, the second perfect meal to your day. And again, this causes a little bit of tension. You got to do new things again. But then after about a week, you create another comfort zone. It's new. Now, your comfort zone is bigger. You grew. And again, then you can add maybe even a third one. And so this is maybe like even a month later. But now you are a different person and you can handle it. You've grown. You have the skills. Here's the thing that you don't want to do. All right? If this is what most people do, is they try to take on way too much too soon. And it creates a lot of tension. This is like, you're trying it and you're pulling that rubber band back, and there's like a lot of tension, and you can hold on to it for a certain amount of time. And then when you get exhausted, or if you have a bad day, you let go. And I see this time and time and time again. It's like the person who wins the lottery. You've heard this before. They get all of this money, and then like 5, 6, 7 later, 10 years later, they file for bankruptcy and they're miserable. It's because they didn't have the skill set to be responsible stewards for all that money. So they lost it. The same thing happens with like you have the young NBA guy who's like 18 and he gets like, $100 million. And then like 7, 8 years later, he loses it all. He's bankrupt. And after the end of his career, he doesn't have anything. It's the same reason. He didn't develop the skills to be able to hold on to that money. He didn't learn how to invest it. And so that's what happens with people's diet plans or their exercise plans. They wake up they go for an hour to the gym, they're eating all this new stuff, and it's like, it's totally outside of your comfort zone. It's too much, too soon. This is how, the little by little, is how you keep it permanent. You keep the weight off for life. Another thing that you can do to keep to your plan. Another way to execute at this and keep this habit alive in your life is to get a coach. Now, I believe in coaching. I've had 10 coaches in the last 10 years for me personally. I've had a fitness coach this last year. I have a business coach now. I have coaches in my life. They allow me to perform at my very best. You might be saying to yourself, God, I've tried all this before. And I know that, I know me, I just don't trust myself anymore. There's nothing wrong with you. We are built, our brains are wired to be accountable to our tribe, to another person. I've had so many transformations in my program over the years for people who are just like, man, I just don't want to do this by myself anymore. So I gave them a meal plan. I gave them the support. I gave them the workouts. So they felt understood. They felt supported through all the hard parts. All the parts that they would have given up before, now they're like, you know what, I'm going to stick through it. And that's how they got to the other side. So if you want to have that conversation, feel free to reach out. So here is one of the things that I want to share with you. This is a big one. The calorie calculator. How to find out exactly what you should be eating in your day so you can get to your goals and you don't kill yourself. You don't restrict your calories too much. What does that look like? This is very simple. Your goal weight. So if you're 180 pounds and you want to be 150 pounds, your goal weight, so let's just say this is 150 pounds times 11. Okay? So it'd be 150 times 11. And this is your total calories, which is, for this person, 1,650 calories per day total. And you might be thinking, well, how many carbs do I have? How many grams of fat? The only really most important things for fat loss, at least, not necessarily just for eating healthy, is your total caloric intake, which would be 1,650 for this person, and your protein, which would be 0.8 times your goal weight, which would be 120 grams per day. And there's 4 calories per gram, okay? And so for this person, it would be 480 calories per day just from the protein. If you just focus on those two numbers, then everything else will just work out, okay? Now you might be thinking, well, what if I'm below my goal target weight? Should I just force myself to eat? And the answer is no, okay? It's not that critical that you get to 1,650 calories per day. Now, if your goal was muscle gain and you wanted to gain muscle, that would be a different story altogether. Now, you might have another question what if I'm at 1,650 and, I'm only at 100 grams of protein per day? Should I eat more grams of protein to, get to my 120? And the answer is no. You've already hit your 1,650 for the day, your total caloric intake of the day. And once you hit that, then you're good for that day. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if I'm starving? Then totally. Make sure just for that one day, if you just kind of screwed up the planning and things didn't go well, then go ahead and have a little bit more protein. That would be good. Or a little bit more healthy carbs, or maybe even a little small, perfect meal, or even a snack. You could have, a yogurt, or you could have a handful of nuts and an apple. Just don't make that a habit. So now let's talk about the fat melting exercises, those exercises that are going to ignite that fat burning machinery in your muscles so it increases your metabolism, melts fat off your body, and makes you toned, sculpted, strong, and built. What does that actually look like? So now let's talk about fat melting exercise. So the exercises that will melt the fat off your body to help you tone, sculpt, strengthen, and build your body from the inside out. And for this one, we're going to start with resistance training, weight training. And resistance, again, is anything that gives your muscle resistance. Anything that makes your muscles tense up with resistance. Could be weight training, could be machines, could be full body training, could be band resistance training, any kind of resistance to your muscles. Now, the cool part about resistance training that you don't get with cardio training is that resistance training is the key to sculpting. This is what I love. Now, sculpting is like a sculptor. Okay, so a sculptor, let's just say they were making the human body. They would pack on clay, let's just say. They would take away clay, they would carve it out, and it's just like with your body. If you were working with me as your client, as my client, I would look at your body and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to maybe round out the shoulders a little bit. We're going to reduce the midsection. We'll lift the glutes. We'll tone and sculpt your thighs. That is what you can do with weight training, resistance training. You cannot do that with cardio training. That's what I love resistance training. And with resistance training, you increase your metabolism. Now, when I say metabolism, do you know what I mean by that? Some people do, some people don't. What does it mean to you? If you say, it's like how quickly your body burns energy, totally, okay? It's how your body utilizes energy. Now, here's the cool part with resistance training, is that if we were to put on 1 pound of muscle on your body, fat-burning machinery, like again, this is not going to bulk you up, it would burn approximately 70 calories per day, even on the days that you're not working out. Isn't that awesome? So as a strategy, what I do with my clients is I put on, let's just say 5 pounds, okay? So that would be 5 pounds of fat-burning machinery times 70. And by the way, 5 pounds doesn't look bulky. It's kind of like if you had an empty water bottle. Same volume, but when you fill it with water, it's dense, it's heavy. And that's what would happen with your body. So you have 5 pounds times 70, so this is 350 extra calories per day, even on the days you're not working out. After 10 days of not just doing anything except for living, you would burn 1 extra pound of fat, because that would be 10 times 350 calories. That's 3,500 calories. That's 1 pound of fat. Another 10 days later, you'd lose even another pound just by living. That's why resistance training is crucial for fat loss. And one of the cool things is that when guys go to the gym, and I see it all the time, they attack the weights the first. They lift weights because it's just traditional. And what women will do is they will attack cardio. And what happens is that guys lose weight faster because of the resistance training. It's so cool. But the cool part is that I would say in the last 7 years, there's more and more women hitting the weights like never before. There's still a lot more women who need to hit the weights. Okay, picking on you gals. But it's getting better and better every single year. That's the cool part. So when you are doing resistance training, like how many times per week should you do it? Like how many times a week should I be doing cardio? Like what does that look like? So let's go ahead and say that your resistance split is 3 times per week. Now, if your goal is fat loss, I would recommend doing resistance training and weight training 3 times per week and cardio training 3 times per week. If you were to look at your week, what days should you do resistance training and what days should you do cardio training? In a perfect flippin' world, if you could just do this in a perfect flippin' world, I would have resistance training Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. At least 48 hours in between each session to allow your muscles to recover. This would be a full body workout, and each time would be a full body workout. And then you do cardio, and I'm going to give you specifically what to do for your cardio sessions to burn fat, but just know that this is what I would have you do. Now, what if your schedule doesn't allow for this, right? What if your schedule only allows for you to do, 2 days of resistance in a row? Like, what does that look like? Okay, so you do 2 days of resistance and then separate it with cardio and resistance. Now, on these 2 days, you would do upper body day and then lower body day, just to make sure that you're, working different muscle groups. Now, what type of resistance is going to give you, weight training is going to give you the most impactful results possible? Now, if your goal is fat loss, then I would recommend exercises that involve your entire body. So I absolutely would not recommend doing machine exercises, because when you sit down on a machine, you're allowing your whole body to rest except for that one muscle group. But when you're doing an exercise that involves your entire body at the same time, then all the muscles in your body are getting stimulated together. And by the end of the session, you're going to have burned more calories. And if you're lifting with enough intensity, you're going to actually stimulate human growth hormone during the session. And human growth hormone is essential for for recovery, helps repair and rebuild your muscles, and it helps you burn more calories because you're packing on more fat burning machinery, muscle. And in the guide, I'm going to give you a whole list of exercises that you can use in order to have full body exercises. Now, if you can only do machines, that's totally cool. I'm just trying to maximize your results. And so that's why I'm giving you 2 options. Now, resistance training will help increase your metabolism, keeps you strong, keeps you firm, but it's not going to melt the fat off your body. Not like cardio. Cardio is the quickest way to burn calories, and it gets that extra layer of fluff off of your body. Now, back in my early 20s, I was working out in the gym 2 hours a day, sometimes 2.5 hours a day. I was obsessed. I love training. I still love training. But even though I had a really good physique, I had a really shapely physique, probably about 20, 25 pounds heavier than I am right now, just muscle. I never had the cut look, the 6-pack, the separation in the muscles where you can see the shoulders and the triceps and everything just separated. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's a genetic thing, right? I don't know if I would be able to do it. But then there was this guy in the gym, and he was ripped. He was big, but he was ripped. He had the physique that I wanted. Big cut black dude. I loved it. He was just a cool dude. He's just positive, but he just had the physique that I wanted. And one day I just was like fed up. I went up to him in the gym. I was like, hey, hey man, I just have a question. I really just admire your training. How do you get not only muscular, but like really lean and tone? Like, what do you do? What's your secret? And he looked at me and he said, dude, I see you working in here in the gym. You're working hard, but there's one thing that you're missing. I'm like, what? He said, you know what I do in addition to lifting like this? He goes, cardio. Cardio, 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 cardio. He said, do you get it? I said, cardio? He said, cardio. Cardio is the thing that helps you get rid of all that sugar that's in your muscle, all the extra salt. And salt holds 2,000 to 3,000% of its weight in water in your muscle. And so most people actually overdo it on the salt. So it gets rid of the extra water, gets rid of the extra fluff, helps you melt fat, helps you burn way more calories than resistance training by itself. And it gives you what we call afterburn. This is my little flame. Ooh, it's a hot flame. Afterburn. So you might even have the cardio session, okay? You have the cardio session, burns so many calories. In one session, maximally 400 to 500 max. You are murdering it with a HIIT training if you're doing it like this. I don't care what you say. I've seen so much research behind this. It's 450, so it's not many calories, honestly. But when you work out, let's just say you work out at 8 a.m., let's just say. For the rest of the day, you'll actually have afterburn for about 10 hours. So you're burning an extra, let's say 80 to 100 calories, even just by living, because your body's jacked. It just keeps burning calories. And that's why cardio is so awesome. You might be saying, well, what should I do for cardio? If I had to give you a perfect schedule, it'd be every other day, 3 days a week. If you want to do more than that, you can, okay? But 3 days per week. And on the 3 days per week, I would have you do, for cardio 1 would be zone 2 training. Now, zone 2 is 65 to 75% of your maximum heart rate. And your maximum heart rate, MHR, is 220 minus your flippin' age. So let's say if you're 40 years old, it'd be 180 would be your maximum heart rate. So it'd be 65 to 75% of that. And this would be up to 60 minutes. So 30 minutes would be fine, up to 60 minutes. Now, a lot of people out there, I have clients who are so jacked, they're like, oh my gosh, this is not enough. I need to be in HIIT training. And they're just addicted, right? It's like coffee drinking, addicted people. And what they found is that if you don't do zone 2 training, you're not giving your heart a chance to recover. And this is one of the biggest reasons why people don't recover and they don't advance, is because they're doing too much of zone 3 and zone 4, which I'll tell you about, and not enough of this. As a matter of fact, there's more research that actually shows that the more zone 2 that you do throughout the week, the actually longer that you'll live. The lower incidence of heart disease and all sorts of stuff. So zone 2 is the shit, is the stuff. Okay, what about zone 3? So this is number 1, so you can do this on a Monday, let's just say. Zone 3 is 75 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. I'd say for about a half hour, 30 minutes. Some people do all the way up to 60, that's cool. I wouldn't recommend that. It'd be anywhere between 25 and 30 minutes. Okay, but then you have the third day, and I'm running out of room, so I'll do it here. The third day would be zone 4. This is HIIT, baby. I don't know if it's HIIT like this or HIIT or whatever. I don't know. HIIT, all right? HIIT training. This would be 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate, all right? And you only do it for maybe 20, 25 minutes. And how you do it is you do this maximum heart rate exercise for let's just say 20 to 30 seconds. It's like a full out sprint, okay? You could even do it up to a minute. I do mine for up to a minute. Then you give yourself a recovery. So you kind of slow down, you could even walk, you know, just something less for about 20 seconds. And you go back and forth for a total of 20 to 25 minutes. And that's what you do. Zone 2, Zone 3, and Zone 4. Now, if you're just getting started, then just do 2 things. You don't have to worry about all this nonsense. The first thing is you pick an exercise that you love the most or you hate the least. Okay, so it could be pickleball, it could be swimming, it could be walking fast, it could be doing treadmill work, elliptical, whatever you love the most or hate the least, pick that exercise. And the second thing is do it 7 out of 10 intensity for about 25-30 minutes. If you're just getting started. Honestly, if you just stick to that and you do some resistance training, you're fine. This is just for people who want to get a little bit more geeky. You don't have to do any of these things. As a matter of fact, I don't do these things. I go, okay, once a week I'm going to run. All right, once a week I'm going to, pick up the pace a little bit. Maybe I'll run some hills. Okay, third time per week, I'm going to take my little boy Koa. We're going to get into the Bob, the little trail runner, and I'm going to run hills here in Seattle because there's a lot of them here in Seattle. And he's like giggling up a storm. I'm dying, and that's what I consider to be HIIT training, okay? Whatever gets you to do it is the right answer. Now that you have the exercise and the food, how can we help you repair and rebuild so your metabolism increases, you burn more fat? Like, what is that? Now we're at the ultimate fat loss recovery protocol. What the experts recommend is anywhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Now, when I actually started really paying attention to this, I'm like, there's no way I can get my life done in 7 to 9 hours. There's no way. I was getting on average 5 hours to 6 a night, and I was miserable. I was jacked up on caffeine. I wasn't feeling good. I was napping all day. I couldn't manage my energy, but I'm like, well, I got to be a hustler. I got to be a worker. That was like this hustle thing that's going on social media. I'm like, I want to be a part of that. But little did I know I was really hurting myself. And it wasn't until I got to 7, it's like a little baby step, was outside of my comfort zone. Then I went to 7.5, and now I'm consistently getting 8 hours of sleep rest. I don't sleep through the night most of the time. I wake up a couple of times, but at least I'm getting solid rest. Number 1, sleep regulates hormone balance. Now, ghrelin is the appetite stimulating hormone, and leptin is the hormone that actually tells your brain that you're satisfied. Now, here's the thing. When you don't sleep, ghrelin goes through the roof. The second thing is your metabolism and your energy. And so a well-rested body burns way more calories throughout the day. Number 3, sleep is essential for your energy levels. A well-rested body will have way more energy expenditure the next day just because it's well-rested. A tired body will have less energy expenditure simply because less sleep. And the 4th is recovery. A well-rested body has way more muscle mass than a non-rested body because in the middle of the night, you experience protein synthesis, which is muscle building. And as you know, 1 pound of muscle burns an extra 70 calories a day. So if you have more muscle mass on your body, your metabolism is through the roof. You're burning more calories. And like I said earlier, another way, a powerful way to adhere to the program, to do something that you don't want to do, you feel uncomfortable doing, you're not sure about, you understand it intellectually, but it doesn't mean that you're going to do it out in the physical world. Or you may do it for a week or 2, but you know yourself, and then you know that you'll stop. You know you have that stopping point. If that's you, then I invite you to reach out and talk to me about coaching. So if you're looking for an exercise program and you want something laid out in front of you, step by step, created specifically for you. If you want the meal planning and know exactly what to eat with guidance, where you get held by the hand and you can really discover who you are. That's what this is. It's a process of remembering who you really are. If you want a program like that, go to peterfeza.com/get started, get-started, and you'll find out a little bit more information there. Let's get you started. So now you're equipped. You have the food plan. You have the exercises. You have the mindset. This is all great on paper. Now it's time to execute. Now it's time to take action. Now it's time to find out who you really are. Remember this. You are powerful. You are amazing. You are unstoppable. I don't care whoever's in your life's not supporting you in this. I support you. I support you in this. I have your back for life. This is worth it. This is one of the most important things that you'll ever do, and I'm so incredibly proud of you. Build muscle, lose fat, ignite your strength. I'll see you next time.